Well, my name's Mikey. Everyone probably knows that already. We've got. I'm just going to do on the order of my screen that what I've got. We've got Margot, another member of the People Speak, David or David, depends
yes,
whatever you want. It's up to you, really.
David's right.
We got Joe. We got Will. That your sound is not connected. Say hello, Will.
Unmute. Am I here now?
Yeah, you're a bit quiet. You're a bit quiet. And we've got Emmett as well. There's hiding in the shadows. Effectively, he's in the reference section of the library, just kind of poking his head around the corner. But are you going to come out and say hello, introduce yourself, Emmett? I mean, it'd be nice just to see your face. Maybe you can't technically do it at the moment. I don't know. Oh, here we are.
Yay.
In the park, not in the reference section. How are you, Emmett? You okay?
Yeah, just made it to the park in time, basically, because difficult to do it while walking along the road.
Yeah. What park are you in?
Hampstead Heath again.
Oh, very nice, very nice.
Nice.
There's lots of big spaces here, so you don't have to be near other people.
Okay, just in case we were worried. Can you just give us a spin around and show us your environment?
Oh, nice.
Very nice, yeah.
Very bucolic.
So as you can see, I'm definitely practicing social distancing.
Yep. All right, so, I mean, if all of you, I think, are familiar with the Talkaoke concept, and really the starting point is, what do you want to talk about? So there's, it could be anything.
Your fantastic backdrop.
What's that?
Your backdrop in the library. Is that a custom job?
Yeah, it took me ages getting all these books together. Do you know what I mean?
Is this a new skill, do you think? The current climate has helped you develop your Photoshop skills? Well,
this is actually Rick that's done these Photoshop skills rather than me. And Rick, hopefully, if we get we have, as usual, had a few technical hitches and hiccups along the way. Oh, look, there we are. You see that Rick's on the visuals right now.
Are we allowed to talk in the library?
What's that?
That's such a good point.
What's that, Emmett?
Are we allowed to talk in the library?
Probably not. You may have to be like a mute.
Are we allowed to talk in the library?
Well, it looks like we're allowed to drink coffee and eat cereal, so I don't see why we can't talk as well. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of library, I believe. But still, we're still searching. We're still struggling for a theme, a subject, a question, an intervention, something to kick this off with. So has anyone got any thoughts, comments, observations?
I just raised my actual hand. But when we couldn't hear Will, and then we could hear him very quickly, but I just suddenly thought, I was reading about something, when people can't communicate, or they can't touch or whatever, there's a barrier, then the insight into people's souls and their entire being is through eyes. And I kind of wondered whether it's possible to do an entire Talkaoke by just looking deeply in people's eyes. It would be a different kind of thing. But I think eyes are just so revealing, and I'm definitely finding myself looking into people's eyes a bit more. Although on pixelated screens, it's just a bit hard. So I may be reading things that aren't there. I don't know.
Okay.
So,
right.
Okay.
That's
body language. I think it's called body language.
Body language,
how you detect. I guess women are much more aware of this than men.
Do you think so?
I don't know. I would guess so. Yes. They are.
When you say aware, what do you mean? Do you mean they read it better, or they're more conscious of it? Because isn't that could be seen as two different things?
I guess they are more conscious of it. They are looking for the sign, the pre-coming sign, in order to keep their safety.
And so you think it's about safety that women?
I think it's about safety.
Yeah. Okay. So body language, we could talk about that.
I know. I find it interesting though, the new skills that people are picking up whilst they're in isolation. So clearly, Margot's developing this acute sense of people's personality by their eyes.
Digital body language.
Unless I've always had it, because I'm a woman.
Maybe.
It's only just becoming revealed now, though.
Okay, Will. So, what new skills have you picked up whilst you've been in isolation?
I needed a new creative outlet, so I'm trying to do a bit of sketching. Nothing that's too fancy or good at the moment, but it's just interesting trying new things again and going back. Now I've got a little bit of time, seeing how it works, if it's any good for you. But it's a nice time for a bit of experimentation.
Have you got some examples? We could actually with our technology that we've got, we could actually throw them up onto the background if you wanted to.
That would be a negative.
Come on,
not ready yet. Not ready for the oxygen.
No, they're in the other room anyway. My sketching stuff's in the other place. But I started 2 days ago because I was trying to read stuff before that, but I was just finding it a little bit tedious at points. So I thought I'd try something different and spice it up. Has anyone else tried anything different?
Okay, anyone tried anything new? That's a question out there. We've got sketching. We've got possibly body language. I've actually been trying to access the dark web since I've been online, but not very much success so far. But anyway, that's another story. I'm not going to go into that because I'm the host. But
apparently, I got a friend who sent a list of things that basically you will end up after quarantine, and one of the one who I picked up is Maniac. So basically, I'm stressing out like mad. So basically, I'm starting to do things really like squarish. So basically, I need to keep my mind busy with some other stuff. And I smoke like mad. I will definitely end up sicker than before the quarantine.
Yeah. So you're improving your smoking skills.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But one of them is like become pregnant. But I might do that, but it might be like just psychological pregnancy.
Okay. Okay.
Are you, David? Are you developing that then? Are you developing what it like? Kind of gave yourself in a state of what would it be like to be pregnant? Is that
must be?
Is that what you just said? Because that's
just in your heads.
Okay.
Okay, we've got another couple of new faces here. On the show, we've got who have we got here? We've got
like a double face.
It's a double. I'm gonna just say. Okay, so I mean, you can see everyone's name. So, I used to be able to impress people with my recall of people's names, but now it doesn't seem so impressive because it's all written on the screen anyway. But we've got somebody that's officially known as Jessica. But there's two people here. Which one's Jessica? Oh, we've changed it. Jess and Craig we've got now. So hello. And we've got Patrick here. Hello. You're just connecting to the audio. We're just kind of getting going, really. We're just kind of, the way Talkaoke works, we just talk about whatever comes up. So far, it's like, what kind of skills have you learned in lockdown? Margot's improved on her body language, although apparently it was already, as a woman, your body language was already a bit, your skills of reading body language is already a bit more acute, but improved even more so. Will's been doing sketching. David's got pregnant, or getting a phantom pregnancy. So everyone's sort of learning. I don't know if phantom pregnancy is a skill or not, but everyone's kind of picking up new skills. Patrick, we can't hear you. I don't know if you're connected yet to the audio. And Joe is kind of shuffling and fidgeting around with his camera, but I'm sure there's a reason for it because I think it's about also connecting to the audio. So that's right. So Jess, Craig, have you picked up any new skills in the last few weeks?
I've been learning to make bread.
Right. Okay.
It's quite good.
How's that been going?
Yeah, it's being a process.
Yeah.
Yeah. Getting the ingredients is the most difficult thing, but I've got them all now.
Okay,
well, we've now got 46 kilograms of flour, so...
Okay. So you can make loaves for everybody, actually.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about setting up a pizza delivery firm? Because we actually need one, funnily enough, for our project, The Slice is Right.
There is, apparently restaurants are reopening and offering delivery now. Obviously, it's still aimed for like rich people because basically they will serve the food at restaurant price. So basically, I don't know. Pizza making, I don't know. I never done it.
You never done it?
I'm a chef, but I don't know how to make pizza. I don't know
how to
make pizza dough.
Okay.
But it's quite easy to pick up.
It must be quite simple. I don't know. How is making bread? Is it an easy process? Is it complicated?
It's pretty easy. I've been trying to make sourdough that makes it a little bit more complicated. But yeah, it's pretty easy. Dry yeast is really easy. So like pizza dough is quite simple to make.
Okay, but with sourdough, you use a different type of yeast.
No, you grow your own yeast.
You grow your own yeast, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's just introduce Patrick because say hello because we've not heard your voice yet, Patrick. No, we still can't hear you. I'm going to unmute you and see if that works. Patrick, hello?
Yeah. Really easy. So, like, pizza dough is quite simple. Okay,
whoa.
No, you grow your own.
Oh, hang on. I think, have you got this Facebook stream going on as well there, Patrick? I'm going to have to mute you. That's going to get confusing. Just maybe mute your Facebook stream. Otherwise, we're going to get a weird kind of echo going on. I guess that's my skill that I've learned, is how to sort of organize these strange online meetings, and knowing who to mute and who to unmute is, I guess, my skill.
I think there's like a new kind of power that comes with technology. I think in real life, it's just impossible. I mean, it's not impossible to meet people in real life, but you can probably get into much more trouble for doing that.
I mean, do you think when we come out of lockdown, we'll be sort of having we'll be exercising this mute function where we'll just like, someone's talking to us, we'll just somehow have a button that we can mute them?
No, but we will definitely be using more video conferencing things.
Yeah.
And there is the whole DJing things who basically will develop. It's developing fast, and I don't know. There is the film screening. There is thousands of films. It's not thousands. Yeah. By the way, we're having an Explain Cinema show soon.
Are you involved in any sort of film screening, David?
Sorry?
Are you involved in any kind of film screening?
There is one coming up. We should have one on the 9th of May.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Exploding Cinema.
Exploding Cinema. Okay. And can you tell us a little bit about it? What is Exploding Cinema?
Exploding Cinema is a collective who's been going on for like 30 years. We are celebrating 30 years next year.
Okay.
I've been involved for like 20 years now. A little bit less than that. But it's open access, so we don't curate. We receive the film and we put them on a timeline. Right. And we organize like a theater style. So we got people to sit on table rather than in rows. And basically there is like the whole side of interaction with the filmmaker. So basically we got a Q&A with the filmmaker. We invite the filmmakers plus one guest. And basically we interact with the filmmaker in the English films. And basically the identity of Explain Cinema is the visuals. So we spend a lot of times redecorating the venue.
And how's that gonna be for an online version? How does that change? Is it just showing films, streaming films online? How does it work?
Basically, for the moment, we are. We'll see how it goes exactly, but basically, we are trying to devise the task.
So maybe we can put this out there to the rest of the audience here. How can you do an online film streaming and keep it interesting? We've got a new face down the bottom here. Just say hello. I'm just going to come to Patrick, actually, see if his sound's got any better. Patrick, say hello.
Can you hear me?
We'll see how it goes exactly, but basically we are trying to...
We can hear you, but you've got to turn off your Facebook stream, otherwise...
To the rest of the audience here.
How confusing.
Online film streaming.
I'll come back to you in a bit. Okay, so Rowan, say hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Okay, good.
Long time no see.
Are you in a basement? Where are you calling from?
From my house.
Yeah, where is that?
Tokyo.
Oh, so you're logging in from Tokyo. Amazing.
Yes, yeah. It's almost bedtime. I thought I'd sort of swing by and say hi and see what the chat's about.
Yeah, well, at the moment it's about. I don't know what's going on in Tokyo, but down here in London, I think everyone else is here. Well, no, not everyone's from London here, but at least in the UK, we're all in lockdown. Is it the same situation there?
Yeah.
You're logging in from Tokyo. Amazing.
Yeah. It's almost bedtime.
Hang on. I'm gonna have to mute you again, Patrick, because we're getting some feedback, some loop. Anyway, go on, Rowan. Say hello again. So, what's going on in Tokyo? Is there lockdown there?
Yeah, same thing. So we're all in lockdown. Everyone's working from home or trying to. The work culture is a bit different here, so it's very unusual. Like it's weird everywhere in the world, but here people are really freaking out because it's a FaceTime based culture. Like people need to be in the office, and if they're not, then it kind of causes trouble. So everyone's a little bit scared about their jobs, basically.
Right. So they've got a bit of dissonance going on there.
Yeah, exactly. Like the WHO and the government are sort of saying one thing, but then everyone's bosses is saying something else. So
right. Okay. So the bosses are not really kind of keeping up with the program. So
that reminds me a little bit about the situation that's happening in Poland at the moment.
Yeah.
The Polish government is insisting that we're going ahead as a nation. We're going ahead with presidential elections on 10th of May.
Yeah.
But as of last night or yesterday, they've released information as to how to register to vote when you are abroad. And the only way of voting is by doing it in person, which in the UK is going to be difficult. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but that is really asking people to disobey a law. I don't know, or is the lockdown?
Yeah.
Is it still? I mean, is it a law?
Yeah, I think you can get fined for breaking the lockdown. So I'd say that makes it a law.
Yeah.
So I just don't know how it's going to work.
So there's a bit of a clash of Polish law versus UK law. How's that going to work?
Well, I don't know. And also people can't vote. Usually there's a lot of voting points, but for this one, you can only vote from London or Edinburgh. So if you live in Milton Keynes or somewhere, you have to really break the lockdown, like to travel.
Wow.
So it just reminded me of what you were saying.
Okay, so there's some real dissonances going on. I mean, where do we want to go with this discussion? Do we want to talk about the sort of like contradictions, the paradoxes, the dissonances between what one person's telling you and another? Or do we want to talk about new skills acquired? Because that's what we were talking about before you joined, Rome. We were talking about what new skills have been picked up.
That explains the bread. Okay.
What's that?
That explains the bread. I was going to ask about the bread behind you.
Yeah, that's what's going on with the dough. And yeah, one of them was bread making. Will's been doing sketching. David's got some kind of phantom pregnancy. Margot's been learning body language, and I've been learning how to mute people. So, we've all been learning new stuff. So we could talk about that, or we could go on. It's kind of up to you people where you want to take this conversation. Do you want to talk about the skills? Do you want to talk about this dissonance, maybe combining these two subjects? Are we better now at dealing with paradoxes? Go on.
I was like, I will just comment that basically somehow we've been stopped for like 4 weeks or 5 weeks now. But basically reality will get back to us. Basically, a national election is a reality, is a real things. And I don't know if you can put the debate of having online voting and how you secure the fact. Maybe the blockchain will help or something like that, because I think the most secure versions, even so the blockchain is not secure. So basically,
I mean, will this push, talk about learning new skills, will the Polish government learn the new skill of having online voting, or will we start to have more online representation rather than having to go old school to the polling booth? And how will that change politics? Will it change it at all?
The only thing I can say is I'm receiving the council newsletter, and they now organize their parliamentary sessions online.
Right.
So I think it's as a viewer only, but basically now you can access to the meetings, the council meeting online.
What council is that?
Islington.
Islington, right. Okay.
And basically, I don't know I don't think there is a power of vote or there is a power of.
But that just comes next, I suppose.
Yes, and basically the idea of, I guess, if you go back to politics, it might be easier to try to get a simple question every day, where basically you try to get an interaction with the citizen, rather than one big question where basically nobody understands.
Okay,
so cut down democracy into like smaller questions.
So it could be more like, rather than everybody voting on everything, it's just that the people are interested in, say, parking, vote on parking, and the people interested in the environment vote on the environment.
Maybe. For me, it will be like more a daily engagement rather than once every 5 years or once every 7 years.
So you could actually just, whatever meeting, maybe this is how it's going to work in the future, that people will just log into the parliament and vote themselves on the whatever's happening on the day. And will that lead to a better outcome, a worse outcome, or?
Anyway, ask the audience, because the stuff is that it will at least definitely get more involvement. So at least if you got some involvement, you know a little bit of what's happening. So you're a little bit more aware of how the things are coming to your heads.
Okay, so will this online politics actually, will it actually change things? Will people go for this more online feel now that we've kind of gone a little bit down this road?
I think online politics coming from a corona background is a good idea. You know, it means that people don't have to go out, they don't have to vote. From a security and look already what politics on Facebook and other websites are like. I think it could open it up to a lot more turmoil, a lot more trouble and a lot more manipulation in voting.
Right. Okay. So
So I think it's a double. You know, one side is good because it keeps people in their houses. The other side could be bad.
Okay. Will this virus force us to go into a more online political system, and what are the advantages, disadvantages being hacked by the big political companies, I suppose you call them, but more involvement, says David. Anyone else got any views on this?
Yeah, I think I think it's good because there's certain politicians that are answering questions directly from the public, you know, doing live Q&As at different parts. I think, you know, I saw quite a few in America. I think the New Zealand's Prime Minister did it as well. And it's nice, you know, it gives that sense of accountability, letting them know that actually they are still culpable to answer to the public.
Yeah, okay, so it might get a bit more involvement. We've got a new face here. We've got Victoria. Hello, say hello, just test your mic. Oh, we can't hear. Let me see if I can unmute you. Hang on.
Just unmute.
Yeah, there we go, yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Hello, welcome.
Hello. How are you?
Good. At the moment, we're sort of talking, we started off talking about what new skills have you picked up, but then we actually heard that there's this kind of like, in different countries, we've got representatives from Poland and Japan here, that there's this weird there is some dissonance going on. But then we started talking about, well, maybe after the government itself will learn new skills of doing politics online. And how will doing politics online actually improve or make the system worse? So some people think, well, actually it could get hacked more or will be more manipulated by special interest groups. But other people have said we'll be more involved, we'll be closer to the to the actual action of what's going on. So that's what we're talking about at the moment.
Okay.
The Talkaoke is a bit freeform, so whether we stay on this or not, who knows? Who knows where we're going to go with this?
Sorry,
but, it seems to be a popular idea. Anyway, would you like to like politics to go more online?
Well, I suppose I don't know. I suppose it is open to hacking, but I suppose it does make it more open to. I suppose everything is much more online, and it's much more. Everyone's in touch with it then, and on a much more sort of rawer level. But I suppose there are pitfalls as well. So it's a difficult one.
Swings and roundabouts.
Yeah.
We've got someone using actually the hand function, and I should say this actually that this could be something that we're talking about. Adopting new methods and learning new skills. One of them is raising your virtual hand rather than raising your real hand if you wanted to. Because I noticed, Rowan, actually, you wanted to say something as well, didn't you? But have you... see if you can... Yeah, go on.
Where's the hand thing? You just like...
You've got to go to... where is it again? Margot, you know.
So you go into the participants. If you don't click on participants, then you can do all sorts of things.
Yeah. But you've got that. That's just soliciting your applause. But there is actually a raised hand function, and that is just approval. Craig, do you actually want to say something?
I do.
But hang on, because Emmett's had his hand raised, his virtual hand raised for a while. So let's just go to Emmett and then to you, Craig. Emmett, what do you want to say? Let me unmute you.
I think he's
hang on,
muted.
let me unmute you. Hang on.
He's enjoying
Emmett.
So,
oh, no, I've just muted you again. This is a bit of a flaw of this. Emmett.
okay. Yeah. This thing about learning new skills, because on the whole, I'm doing the same things I normally do, which is spend a lot of time online looking at numbers. Just now the numbers are much more real because of people's deaths and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But one thing I'm doing right now is because I'm in the heath, in a park, and you're not allowed to come to park to sunbathe. And the problem is being on Talkaoke might look like sunbathing. So it means I've had to do exercise while I'm here. So I've been doing a mixture of push-ups and sit-ups. And
so you've kind of learned to,
while I'm on the Talkaoke.
You've learned to cheat the system, so to speak.
How is that cheating the system? I'm allowed to come to the park to exercise.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean. You
have to do 2 or 3 things at the same time.
Okay, all right. Okay, so it's more about
cereal and Talkaoke at the same time.
It's more about multitasking then, I suppose, isn't it? All right, okay,
if that's the rule isn't you're not allowed to do Talkaoke at the same time as exercising. It's just that you must be exercising if you're in the park.
Okay, and have you got any thoughts on online politics as opposed to real life politics?
Well, if it persists for a while, then it might include a lot of people who have difficulty in making it to political meetings because they have kids and that kind of thing. But they might be able to do the online stuff as easily as most people, as long as they can keep the kids out of the way for a few minutes while they're.
So it might make it a bit more accessible, this online stuff.
Well, for some people, a lot of older people and stuff might be disenfranchised by it because they don't find, there are silver surfers, but some people never really move beyond, some people can't even text on their phones, you know? So with those people, would they be able to use Zoom and all these things? I don't know.
Okay,
be differently enabled is what you could say. Some people will be enabled who were disabled by the previous system, and some people will be disabled who were enabled by the previous system.
Okay, so I'm going to take that as another swings and roundabouts answer, but let me come to Craig, and then I'll come to you, David. I see you've got your hand raised, but we'll explain how to do the virtual hand raising in a second. Let me go to Craig first. Go on, what are you going to say?
I was going to say a similar thing about like some people getting left out that have internet connections or not. But if there was an online voting system, do you think the internet would become free so everybody could vote?
Well, I mean, what do you think? Do you think that would be a necessity?
I think that would be a necessity because, you know, people that for one reason or another didn't have the internet or couldn't afford the internet wouldn't be able to vote.
But then also as well, I think if you had the voting system online, it would also avoid some, for lack of a better word, excuses about not going out. So when my sister was campaigning, she knocked on some doors and they said, "Oh, I'm not going to go vote tonight because it's raining." And I think that would take out I know that's a smaller percentage of people, but people that have a legitimate excuse that they couldn't get out, if it was online, it would open it up to more.
Yeah, like people allergic to water and stuff like that. Okay, so Margot, no, let me go to David. He's had his hand up. I'll come to you in a second, Margot. But David, if you want to raise your virtual hand, just go to participants on the right-hand side. If you're on a computer,
participants,
and then you can there's a raise hand function there. But anyway, what were you going to say? Deal with that for the next one.
Okay. First, for the access of the internet, you might be able to access through a community project. So you might not have to, and basically the community project will provide the access for free.
Yeah.
And the second one is, I heard of a grassroots project. If I read something long time ago, pretty much long time ago, it was a grassroots project in America, but I don't remember where exactly. But basically, they give the participant some kind of tokens, and basically they had conversation about how the money was spent in the council, and basically people had to physically put their tokens on where they wanted to spend the money.
Yeah.
So
Did that work?
A group of 12. Yeah, it does work.
Yeah.
It's completely different. The result is completely different than how the council or how the authority they spend the money. But at least somehow the local participant could have their voice, could voice their voice through this system.
All right. So we could go there's all sorts of different ideas out there about how you could get involved online. You could have tokens and decide how money gets spent, not just vote on stuff. Margot, what was your point?
I had 2 points. One was about exercising in the park. I suppose the nearest to the nearest to resting you can do, which is still technically exercise, is Pilates. An interesting thing about that is that it kind of works on really core muscles. And the guy who came up with it, he was trying to get over some accident or whatever, and doctors said like, no, you will never walk again. And he was starting small. The second point about the online elections and kind of thing, I think I'll be interested to see how we can kind of combine the politics a bit more, and whether it's even possible, because right now this pandemic has proven how everything is so connected. And by the way, the other thing that connects us is the climate, and today is the Earth Day, so I'd like to say Happy Earth Day to everyone.
Happy Earth Day.
But you know, are we able, because it seems to me like governments are using this pandemic to further polarize people and atomize us as nations and groups, as opposed to pull together.
Okay, so are we getting less Earth conscious? Are we getting polarized? Or do we want to talk about Pilates? It's kind of up to you where you want to go with this conversation. There's the Pilates thread, and there's the Earth Day global consciousness line online. It's kind of up to you where you want to take this conversation. And what is the minimum form of, we've got our own online chamber that we have now been transported into. Would you want to be involved in this online chamber? Could you see yourself here? Joe, you've got your hand raised, but somehow it's not coming up on my screen. What were you going to say?
Hi. I wanted to throw a slight curveball in.
That's Talkaoke. That's your right.
Okay.
Sure.
Just because I feel a little bit responsible because I invited Victoria, or Victoria came via conversation, but it is kind of linked, so I just want to throw it in, and then we can do it with it. On the last event, we mentioned different types of participation, how communities connect with each other, particularly in the Crystal Palace area, where I live and where Victoria lives as well. And we mentioned the idea of a library of people, which was the idea of drawing people together online to interact and to have and share resources and share skills. And then part of that conversation, bear with me, it's getting somewhere. Part of that conversation, I mentioned death cafes. And Victoria is the leading person in the Crystal Palace area on death cafes.
All right.
And I feel, I just wanted to name that because maybe at some point it might be interesting to bring that in and let Victoria share a little bit about that.
What's death cafes?
Well, what is it? It's basically it's where people come together, normally not online, it's normally face to face, and it's just really to talk about death, because it's such a taboo subject. It was set up by a friend of mine years and years ago, John Underwood, and he just thought that people don't talk about death enough, just to enhance their everyday life, not to dwell on it and make it into a morbid subject, but to make it more of something that people can just discuss, whether it be end of life, whether it be sort of fears and worries about things. So what it is now there's death cafes in, I think it's 70 countries now. It started off just in Hackney in a flat, and now so basically what I do is at St John the Evangelist Church. It's not linked to any religion at all, but we just use their hall, and it's usually every other month, but when I'm doing it online, I'm doing it every month. We get together and just literally eat cakes, have tea and coffee, and then just talk about all aspects of death, whether it be to do with people worried about wills, worried about emotional things. It's not a grief counselling service, but that's basically what it is. And it's just for 2 hours we sit and discuss, and it's not people do, like lots of people are, it can be just relaying stories on just different ways it's touched people's lives, and if they're worried about it, how sometimes talking with people helps. So that's what
okay, I mean, does it fit into this question about participation and about people, I guess, doing stuff online or making decisions? Is there a connection, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing the virtual. We have been doing the Death Cafe online. We've done one. We've got another one on the 3rd of May. But I think it does, because it sort of it's people making decisions about their end of life, and obviously with COVID being around, there's lots of people that are worried about lots of things to do with that, whether it be, not being able to go to funerals, or not being able to, end of life, not being able to go into hospitals. So yeah, I think it does help for people to be able to share those type of things whereas lots of times other people don't want to discuss the area of death. So sort of just gives them that platform to be able to do it. So yeah.
Okay, so
will you go up to Dignitas? Will you go up to speaking about Dignitas?
Would I talk? Sometimes people do talk about that, but the other thing about Death Cafe is it's not a place for anyone to evangelize or to. You can express your views, but it's not to change other people's points of view. So it's to discuss, like, if someone is pro that, then that's fine, they can discuss that. But it's not to sort of, if someone's vehemently against it, it's not to get into an argument about that. It's just to discuss ideas, really. So I'm not an expert in death in any respect, apart from conducting Death Cafes. So yeah, we did do a spin-off thing where we did like a death awareness event where we got experts in, but you can't actually in a Death Cafe, you can't sort of have guest speakers and things like that. So it is just people getting together and talking. So yeah.
Okay, there's a point from Jess and Craig.
I think those sorts of conversations are so much more important at the moment, because I think every day we're being told the figures, which are obviously important to keep track of, but I think when deaths are then all just a number, you lose the stories involved in it. And like, I've found it doing it when we're discussing it, you're talking about people's lives ending, and you're not seeing it that way. You're just seeing it as a number. As a number to see how the situation is going. And I think there needs to be more discussion on it. Not, like you said, not just in a morbid way, but just to appreciate the fact that there are lots of people out there losing friends and loved ones. And those conversations need to happen, because I think it would be more of a dangerous situation if we start seeing if we start seeing the deaths as just a number.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to turn a number into that many stories, I suppose, isn't it? Because when you're talking about hundreds or thousands of people, that's hundreds of thousands of stories, and it's just too much. In a way, it comes back to the whole question of the library, because that is also hundreds and thousands of stories in one place, but we don't really see it, that number, in that way. Where do we want to go with this conversation? Do we want to talk about it? Does it relate to Earth Day, the Death Cafe idea, or talking about death? Does it relate to the COVID thing? It obviously does.
I think there is something around, I think it's what Jessica said there around, I think it's interesting when we were talking last week that that one popped into my head, Death Cafe, because I feel, certainly in UK culture, I feel like it is a bit unspoken, and it's I mean, the situation has actually improved a bit in media, I think, and that there's a good bit more ownership of what's really happening. But I think that's quite recent. So I think there is something around owning the different parts of this situation, particularly the difficult parts of it, and
so kind of taking control of it in a way.
And naming it, and owning it, and creating spaces to talk about the more difficult elements. And as Victoria says, in a kind of like a facilitatory or non-judgmental way. And I think that's there's something for me about creating psychological space around it, giving permission to talk about something that in some cultures people are less comfortable with.
All right, I'm just going to hold that for a second, because we've got a new face. It's Carol over here. Just want to say hello, Carol, see if it's working.
Yep, thanks.
Hello?
Thanks for...
Yeah, I mean, this is... Say again?
I just saw one of my Facebook friends at this meeting.
Yeah, I mean, welcome.
I just wanted to see what's happening, and it is quite interesting what you guys are talking about. So I thought I'm gonna. Yeah,
you're very welcome. Just sort of chime in as and when you want. If you know how to use the virtual hand, maybe Margot, you could demonstrate. Just throw that up if you want to say something. Let me also just while we're having this little break in the flow, just try and go back to Patrick, because you made a point about the environment. Let me just try your audio again. Can you say hello, Patrick?
Yeah, you're very welcome. Just sort of time
in. We still got your. We still got this weird link for you. But maybe
demonstrate.
Maybe just type in your comments on the chat, and I'm just going to read out your comment down here, Patrick, about the situation. What's this? Which enabled them right across the strata. What are you saying here? Can you maybe just say a bit more? Just type a bit more with the keyboard there, Patrick, because I can't really get your audio. But I guess at the moment we're talking about this situation where we have got larger numbers of people dying. We need to kind of own that situation. We need to feel like it's something that we can grasp and something we can get hold of. But you had a point, didn't you, David, at the top here of my screen anyway?
Yeah, from Earth Day and the end of the Earth is catching up with reality.
Yeah.
Somehow we definitely have to react, otherwise petrol will take over and basically kill everything.
Yeah.
So we definitely have to develop some other kind of system.
I mean,
because it's not viable. Apparently they knew when they find the oil and stuff like that, and what you could do with it. They knew that it will destroy the atmosphere, but basically they went into developing the market rather than developing the system rather than, it was faster to develop the system. Now we get to a point where basically we got the internet and we got like communication that they didn't have before. So we might be able to set up some new system where basically it will be less polluting.
Okay, so the Earth Day and death are connected. It's more pressing than ever, Earth Day these days, because I guess, especially in this situation.
We got the internet and we got
Patrick.
I'm
hearing myself louder, but also from about 15 seconds later.
Yes, I think it's a little delay.
Earth Day and death are connected.
Maybe. Patrick, can you type your comments in and we'll try and read them out?
Is it because he's logged on to some?
Yeah, I think you're logged onto the stream as well as the main.
There is a décalage. You might have a more direct connection.
Yeah. Anyway, where are we going to go with this conversation? Do we want to talk about the Earth? Do we want to talk about all of us, all of our lives, about this sense of control or owning our lives? Margot used the raise hand function, but
you've made me a co-host, so I'm unable to raise a hand. Right. I can only do yes. So keep on clicking yes.
Yeah. That wasn't me. That was Rick, by the way.
All right, thank you, Rick.
Hear me now, can you?
Anyway, where we're going to go this conversation?
Patrick's still got the same problem. Sorry, Patrick.
But Patrick, can I just ask you, Patrick, are you looking at Facebook as well? Or can you close your Facebook completely? If you are on Facebook, just turn it off. Just log out. That's if you are on Facebook. But what I wanted to say just very quickly.
What did you want to say?
I just wanted to say that there are a lot of terrible things that are happening right now, but there are also really good things happening. For instance, Carol, I've not spoken to for I don't know how many years. Maybe you remember, Carol. I don't remember. But somehow over Facebook and during this time, people have time to connect, and I think to me it's incredible.
Yeah. So people are connecting more readily. And they're making connections. They're
we lost
Mikey. We couldn't hear you. I don't think we can't hear you, Mikey.
But he muted himself.
He's not unmuted on the other one, but I think these kind of sound problems happen now and then. But I mean, we can carry on the conversation whilst they sort out the sound.
Better. Is that better?
Mikey, we couldn't hear you. No, Patrick, we can still hear an echo. Patrick, do you have Facebook on or not?
Just log off and come back. Log off and redo the meeting because it might be a wrong connection.
I think it's fine. I think they will be able to sort it out. It happened in the past. Basically, Talkaoke Online is still an ongoing project and it's ongoingly developing. That's certainly something new that we had to do. But I don't want to talk. If anybody has got a point, please go ahead.
How many people can you receive? How many people can you host on your conference?
Hundreds.
Hundreds.
We can talk about Zoom. We can pick up from another subject. I know that Mikey and Rick, they're going to be kind of carrying on, trying to sort it out. And at some point we'll hear the voice, I am sure. But yeah, I mean, is anybody else feeling like they're connecting a bit more with the people they haven't for a long time? Joe, we've got a hand up from you, but I don't know if that's... Joe, can you say something? No. Okay, Rowan, we're going to come to you because you raised your hand, and then we'll come to you, Carol.
Definitely. So living 9 hours in the future, the problem is that it's difficult to find time where we can all be in our houses at the same time. And since lockdown has begun, I actually have time to catch up with my friends in the UK, and it's great. Like this, for example, I can do this. And stuff like that. So it's actually been quite good for catch-ups. So in a strange way, I think even though we're sort of isolated, for those of us who don't have our ordinary day-to-day friendship and family group around us, it's actually been an enabler of those connections and sort of direct communication and things like that. Obviously it's just a bit of a silver lining. It's not mitigating the whole thing, but it's just interesting that it's taken kind of like a big catastrophe to sort of kick us up the arse a bit and get us talking a bit more, I think, to those we haven't spoken with in a long time.
Yeah, for sure. Carol, go ahead.
I think I'm back again.
Yes, you definitely are.
So let me just say, Carol, go ahead.
With the situation, it's quite weird that in a normal life, let's say for the last year, there are some people that we just haven't spoken with, and then we reconnect over Zoom because let's say there's an online Zoom party of uni friends or something, and then you realize that Zoom has got a different dynamic of communicating with people, and we can talk all together and find time to actually focus on communication. If you're at I don't know, if you're in a pub or in a group of friends out in the evening, it's a completely different dynamic. You're not always able to communicate directly with everyone. It's easy to, I don't know, just
drift out, zone out, yeah.
But Zoom, I mean, not particularly Zoom, but online conferencing gives a slightly different feel, and it actually makes it a lot more communication focused, which I quite enjoy. Even more, I think I reconnected with my friends over the last 2 weeks in a more, in a better way, more valuable way that I used to reconnect with them over the last couple of years.
Okay, so actually so it's not all bad that some of the connections actually are deeper. Let me come to Victoria.
Just Mike, to let you know, you're very loud, so maybe just...
Oh, okay, because I turned myself up, but I realised my mic had run out of batteries. So little technical hitch there.
Did it work with my hand? Because I could
your hand is there. You're there. Your hand's been up for ages.
Oh, okay, because you couldn't see it on my screen.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I've met on Zoom with some people that I hadn't seen for 30 years from my Art Foundation course from 1989, and we all got together on there, and that was amazing.
Yeah.
So it's it was first of all from Facebook, but it wouldn't really have happened if this hadn't been going on. I don't think. I think it's just giving people more time to be able to maybe source, people that they haven't been in touch with, and I've probably been chatting to friends a lot more than normally.
Where was your foundation course?
I'm at Hounslow Borough College.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
So I did that and then went on to degree. But some of these people I hadn't seen since then, and it was good because even in this format, we seemed to be able to talk as if we hadn't sort of been apart really, and it was there was about 6 of us. I think we were trying to doing it again with more people, but I think there's probably it was just good. It just seemed really nice, and we chatted for hours.
Fantastic.
Yeah, perfect.
So people are reconnecting, and we're reconnecting with Rowan. Although, don't look now, but you've got some animal action behind you, so just be careful there. Craig, or Jess, what are you going to say?
Similar to what Victoria was saying, actually, is that I think that for us, we've been busier in isolation somehow than we would normally. Like we're still having to use the calendar for all of our different Zoom or social plans. Actually, still like you think to have so much free time, and then we have to each morning go, right, which one are we doing online today? Who are we seeing? Or which game are we involved? Which is great. That's obviously what it's, it's so good. Then it does make you wonder sometimes. You're like, well, this friend that I've now reconnected with, why haven't I been doing this the whole time?
All right, okay. I just want to ask you, and that's a bit of a sort of personal question, so just do it. But why? What have you come up with any answers? Why you haven't connected with these people before? Is it just convenience, or is it?
Yeah, I don't really put my finger on it yet. I think because you start to reconnect with the people that you would normally see, like your closest friends and family, you think, oh, well, I could do this to other people I may not have spent as much time in the last few years. And that's part of it as well with some of my friends. Trying to fix a day that you're both free before Corona was always so difficult. It was either work schedules or something else. Whereas I think now it's easier just to find half an hour if you don't commute anywhere or travel anywhere. And yeah, it's just easier to fit in.
I mean, is it anything, I guess part of that question, is it anything to do with that kind of sense of emergency that coronavirus brings, that you probably should talk to people that that are in your past? I mean, that's just a thought, but is that anything to do with it?
Possibly. I think it's making you feel like, because of that sense of urgency, it probably gives you that feeling of I should check in on this person.
Yeah. So there's I guess that sense of concern about people that comes through there, where you think, well, I should look up these people. There's something like okay. Well,
I like what Carol said earlier about things becoming a bit more kind of conversation focused, and I think when you're interacting with people in real life, there's more layers to a performance of, for instance, imagine they haven't seen someone for a really long time. You can't, I've got that with my family members. I'd find it just really draining to try to unpick everything, and maybe you don't have to unpick everything. And somehow online just taught me to be a bit more concise and specific, and there's an understanding on both sides that this is the window that we have. It's no real contact, therefore don't worry about it. Don't try to unpick everything all at once. Just focus on here and now. And for once, I mean, I don't know, and I've got just more time because I don't have to travel, and I really feel like that's made a massive difference. Massive difference.
And you can, to a certain extent, cut out the bullshit, I suppose.
Yeah, I think there's that as well.
Let me come back to Victoria on this one.
I was just going to say also, because I've got a slightly different situation, but there's a friend that I would normally just speak to on email all the time, but she hasn't got a computer at home. She has to go to a library. So now I haven't heard from her at all. And, and there was I was trying to call her, and her phone wasn't working. So in the end I had to, because she has health issues, I don't specifically know where she lives. I knew she lived above a post office. I had to go and send the police round to. I called the police because someone advised me that it'd be best to call the police in case something was wrong. So it just sort of shows that sometimes some people, they do have, if they don't have internet in their house, then it's that's her main form.
I mean, I guess we're kind of assuming that everyone is all connected all the time.
Exactly.
And
I know. I mean, she doesn't have a smartphone or anything, but so it's just, it's just strange, and sometimes, you do take it for granted that everyone does have it at home, and then when things like libraries are shut, where some people do go and connect, it's hard for them, I suppose. I don't know.
Which is what Emmett was saying on the comments in the chat.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I've sort of missed that, but okay. So where do we want to go with this? Do we want to talk about the sort of? Oh, Emmett's got a point over here. I mean, I guess one of the things I'm liking about this conversation is we're sort of talking about some of the positives to be drawn here out of our situation now, that we are somehow, I guess, our priorities are a little bit different, and that could be a good thing to have that temporary shift in priorities. Emmett, what was your point?
Yeah, well, the point that Mark just mentioned about normally they say anyone who doesn't, obviously some people find it very easy to use the internet either with a mobile contract or broadband at home, but the people that don't have that, they normally say you can use the library, but the libraries have been closed now for weeks. And but the other thing I was wondering about is when we need to create new ways of working. You know, the election was last year, December. The Labour manifesto came out October, November, but really it was the manifesto for life after the coronavirus. The idea of putting everyone on proper broadband that's paid for from general taxation. The idea of having this universal public basic services that everyone have access to. So even if you've got an irregular income, you work in the gig economy, all this kind of thing, you don't actually suffer from the loss of those things. And the weird thing is, it was derided at the time, but by exactly every one of the press said what great Johnson and the Conservatives were, and then now saying that Johnson and the Conservatives are terrible, that absolutely the worst possible thing was going to happen at the time. And the thing that they were deriding a few months ago would have been the perfect thing. If we'd started to introduce that, we would have been able to carry on much more seamlessly in the way that many other countries.
What are you saying, though, Emmett? What are you saying? Are you saying?
I'm just saying that we need to implement every single aspect of the Labour Party manifesto from the end of last year.
Okay. It seems like Boris Johnson agrees with you on that one. But, okay, so...
But the manifesto that he got elected not on the basis of it.
Yeah. Rowan, what's your point?
Yeah, but it's interesting that it's kickstarted conversations about positive change at the end of this. And I definitely think like the internet as something on a par with like water and electricity is a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish it would, put it even higher in the sort of list of state priorities. And as Emmett was saying, like it should be considered a need, and water, power, and internet should be like the basic things that are provided to everyone somehow. I'd like for that to be a
human right or something like that.
Yeah, I'd like it to be something like that. In reality, it's more likely going to be kind of some subsidized, goodness knows what, cornered off privatized system. But at least it's kind of started those conversations. I do kind of worry though that that following this, the Tories are going to push through a lot of Labour policy and claim it. And of course, the media, being the media, aren't going to say, "Hey, these are all Labour policies." They're going to say, "Wasn't Boris clever?"
Oh, God.
Okay.
I've got points to bring in from Facebook.
Hang on a sec, because we've got a new face. Let's just say hello to Geraldine.
Hiya.
How you doing? You okay?
I'm really, really well. I was just happy listening, and then Emmett popped up, and I was like, I've got to join in. Hi. Hi.
Well, this is a free-form talk show, so just put in as and when you want to make a point. But we're just saying hello at this point. At the moment, we're kind of talking about the positives that we are drawing from this situation that we're all in. That we are actually connecting with people a bit more.
Yeah. Sorry.
And then there's also the thing about all of Jeremy Corbyn's policy ideas are being implemented, albeit with the credit going to Boris Johnson. So these are some of the things, in a way, we're looking positive. We're talking about making new connections. We're talking about this post-corona world. My post-corona world, normally, in the old days, was just go and get another corona. But what would it be for the whole Earth? I guess it's Earth. I didn't know this until about 15 minutes ago, but it's Earth Day today. So that's where we are right now. But I think, Margot, you wanted to raise a point, didn't you?
Yeah, I wanted to raise a point because I'm just kind of like, looking at Twitter and Facebook, and Will is looking as well. And we're throwing the comments out there to the people who can interact via comments as well. So if you are listening, of course, do comment or join us. But my friend Tom says that he, talking about long lost connections, I know 3 of today's participants, Rowan, Margot and Joe, all from completely different social circles. And like, to me, it's just like, this is exactly why this is so great, you know. Yes, we can't interact in real flesh, but I think we can go straight to like a personal connection, just bypassing the bullshit, like somebody said. Maybe.
Okay, so that's one of the things. I don't know if you were there for that one, Geraldine, but we're talking about actually this. I think it was Carol that said it, really, that this way of communicating actually cuts out a lot of the bullshit, and we just get straight to the point. We make connections. So in some ways it's better. I have to say personally, I prefer, you know, pressing the flesh, so to speak, rather than this virtual thing. But, you know, we do what we can do. So yeah, so we are, and I just will say to those people online that are watching on Facebook, come and join the Zoom. It's in, hopefully it's somewhere there in the comments. We'll put it in the chat. Come and join in and actually show your face, and we want to talk to you personally. So yeah, do come and join. But yeah, yeah, a point from Jess and Craig. What's your point?
I was just wondering, do people think like pub culture after Corona is going to be less, or do you think we're going to go back into just socializing in pubs and like, you know, like that? Or do you think it's going to be more of an online thing because we've got used to like communicating in this way?
So now we've got used to, I mean, how do you feel about it, Craig? Do you feel like you could go back to the pub now? Have you got any desire to go back?
I do like going to pubs. I find like talking like this, you're a lot more on show in some ways, where in pubs you can be a bit more of a wallflower in, like, you know.
Just it's the same thing that, in a way that Carol said, that you can zone out, but there's an advantage to zoning out as well, that you don't have to be so focused in a way. Do you know what I mean? You can just kind of drift in and out in the pub, whereas here you're kind of on show. I mean, to be honest, you can just turn your camera off, or you could just, like, Will's not said much, but you know, it's just there. I know you're there, but I mean, you know, I'm just questioning this idea that you can't drift out on the Zoom conversation, because I think you can.
I'm fulfilling a massive stereotype of not being able to multitask do social media and talk. So thanks for bringing that to everyone's attention, Marty.
That's okay. Can you at least unitask, Will?
Can I what?
Can you unitask?
Unitask?
Yeah.
What's
That's
that?
like do one task at a time.
I was doing that quite well, and then you picked me up.
All right, okay, I'll leave you to it. I'll leave you to it. Let me go to Victoria. You've had your hand up for a while.
You know, I was just going to say that some people said that the trouble with this is that if, you know, when you meet people in the flesh, you're not used to stare. You don't have to stare at your own face.
Right. Okay.
And that's a bit off-putting as well sometimes. And it's just like.
Yeah, I think you can actually hide your face. I'm not sure exactly how, but you can hide your own.
I mean, it's fine, but it's just that's not what you're used to normally, unless I suppose you FaceTime a lot or something like that.
But it is enjoyable watching people catch themselves and looking at themselves more and more. And
I know, it's like trying to get the light better.
Yeah, well, I'm the kind of person that doesn't really look in the mirror very often. So, you know, I'm the sort of person that goes out with a bit where I've shaved, I have a bit of paper still on my face, and then I think, oh, everyone's looking at me. You know, must be looking good today. Anyway, Carol, what's your point? Hang on, I've just muted you accidentally. Go on.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. Yeah, I mean, I could agree and disagree about this whole. Drifting in and out, like it is. One point is, well, actually 2 points. One point was about being able to drift in and out. Is actually, you know, there's a party here going on. We can go to the toilet. Nobody will actually notice, or grab something from the fridge, and you're still in your comfortable environment, even though we're talking to. I don't know anyone apart from Margot in this conversation, but I feel comfortable in a real world. If we were sitting with each other around in a round table,
it might be a bit awkward,
a lot more uncomfortable or awkward. But this format allows us to be a lot more relaxed, I think, because I think the reason about that is we're so used to watching YouTubers and vloggers, Instagrams. Everyone's always like face on the screen rather than in real life, and I feel like maybe we already got used to looking at faces more on the screen than in real life.
What about Craig's point? Did you think that we're going to do this a bit more and be going to the pub less because we're getting a different thing out of it?
Yeah, like it's weird, but we're able to, as I said, connect with strangers and feel comfortable and talk about random topics, which in real life I don't think it would be possible that we would meet somewhere and we would just be like, yeah, okay, hi, how are you? And we'll just, I mean, it'll be awkward.
That basically is what Talkaoke is, which you may not be for this round table.
So you've done it.
It's basically what I've been doing for the last 23 years, getting people to normally when we do this, people sit around the table, but obviously these days they're all like slobbering and spitting all over each other. And so we can't have that anymore. So we're doing this, you know, so that's idea of a relaxed group of strangers is certainly what we're trying to get at with Talkaoke for sure. Let me come to Joe, because you've got your hand up. But I think because you're on two systems, your hand doesn't appear.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I did have my hand. Just following on from Carl's point, I was thinking that there's something around there's the online and there's the offline, and I don't know if anybody else has felt this. So I live in a community where I have been going out into the community a little bit to go to the local park. So if I bump into anyone that I know at the moment, it's really precious. And if I actually manage to get a face-to-face conversation with someone, like, you know, from 2 meters away in a park, or my partner is running a food stall, it feels really quite precious and valuable, and we cut to the quick a bit as well. Like I've had some really quite nice conversations with people, or really rich, and you know, that slight sense of emergency and heightening and cutting out the bullshit a little bit. So just that there is some sort of like, and I wonder as we emerge, will some of that stay where you'll feel like conversations are precious, and face-to-face conversations are precious because they're sort of like a little bit harder to organize. Just thought that was
okay. Will we value it a bit more, and will this sense of cutting out the bullshit carry on, and that also sense of urgency? Because going back to, I'm going to come to you in a second, Victoria, but your point, I guess, about this sense of death, and we all die, whether it's of COVID or something else, we have only got a certain amount of time to make these connections. So maybe we should all be cutting out the bullshit. Craig and Jess?
I was just going to say, like, before COVID, I never saw the point of FaceTime and stuff like that. I saw, like, generally younger people using it. And I just thought, I don't see why they use it. I don't. But now through this, I've got a greater appreciation for it. I feel like when I have voice calls with people or phone calls, I always have like a purpose or trying to do something. But I think when you're talking face to face like this, it can be a little bit more easy and a little less like you have to talk, and more like you can just be with each other but disconnected.
Sorry, just following on from that, I had it the other day where me and my friend share the same hobby. We paint Warhammer miniatures. But I had him on FaceTime hours on end, and we actually realised that for quite a while we wasn't actually talking, and that felt like, but to the point where when I went downstairs, I came up and expected to see him sitting in the room, because by that time it had felt like we had been there together, and we even then took him on an iPad type thing out into the garden to have lunch with. Bit weird, but
it's nice.
That's the future.
That's the future. It's the future.
This is what we're going to do now.
Maybe you could sort of like get your miniatures business and turn it into like little miniatures of your friends that you could have arranged on the table that you can talk to.
I think there might be a horror film about that.
There is something a bit horror film about all of this, I'm sure. Let me go to Victoria. Victoria.
I mean, it was referring back to where you were talking about like the Talkaoke being like getting people together and strangers. I mean, that is what like the Death Cafe is about. It's sort of it's like getting people together, because normally you wouldn't, unless you go along to, I don't know, some evening class or something where you get together loads of different people that wouldn't normally come together. That's sort of what it's about. But I do appreciate that it's easier sometimes to do it online, like Carol said. it's more immediate, I suppose. I don't know. It's less intimidating for someone to actually come to somewhere. I suppose
you don't have to step into a room, and
exactly.
It's not daunting, and you can just easily just like leave the meeting. I just want to say, if anyone does need to leave the meeting, do say goodbye and give us a final thought before you go, because are you? Oh, okay.
Yeah, because it's
now
kind
look what I've
of
done.
like 11:15 here, so it's bedtime for me.
Right. Okay.
So I am going to say some goodbyes. But it's quite a big topic of discussion, I guess. There's lots of points, but I definitely want people to think more about positives, that kind of lights at the end of the tunnel in a non-death kind of way. Just like
death is not the only positive of this.
But it's just like seriously, like I've been sort of pleasantly surprised by how even a lot of conservatives are talking about what I consider more kind of like lefty progressive ideals. And even though they think they're not lefty and progressive ideals, they're at least thinking about them. And even though credit might not get, the people who deserve credit might not get it, but does it matter if the world moves forward?
I mean, do you think, say, the people that developed the Labour manifesto will be annoyed or happy that all of those policies are being introduced?
Okay, well, analogously, put it like this. Do you remember when Boris bikes came out? I think hopefully most people know they're nothing to do with Boris. There were Ken Livingstone bikes.
Yeah.
But Ken Livingstone bike doesn't sound cool, and Boris wanted his name on them, so he called them Boris bikes. I think the Ken bikes were a good idea. It's a shame that they've got called Boris bikes, but I'd rather have Boris bikes than no bikes. Okay. So I'm kind of hoping and assuming things will be like that after this. There'll be all of these, basically some form of
it'll be the universal Boris income.
Yeah. Exactly that. But I'd rather that, and it be a complete facade than nothing at all. So I kind of want people to think positively about that. Maybe even exploit that. Maybe even make them think it's their idea.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe sometimes, in a way, it works like this with Talkaoke. It's better for people to think it's their idea, really. And then they, as Joe was saying earlier on, they own it. So, maybe we just say, well done, Boris, great idea, universal Boris income. The Boris net, free internet, great idea, Boris, well done, Boris. And then it would actually happen. Okay, well, that's a great final thought. Will, were you going to chime in there?
Yeah, we've just had Emma on the comments saying that they're now going to be called Sadiq Cycles after Sadiq Khan, sponsored by Santander as well. So I think it's quite an apt one. We've had another interesting question of whether or not there's going to be some sort of computer coronavirus that's going to disrupt our online communications. Disrupt our life. I think it's great questions by Emma.
So what's your thought? Have you got a thought on that? Do you think
I think there will be, hopefully not at the same time though.
Well, how will we deal with the computer version of the coronavirus?
I don't know how we'll deal with that one, but I think there'll be some sort of maybe some sort of fire surge, something that attacks the infrastructure afterwards. But we'll deal with that one as and when it comes up. Yeah, will we be better prepared for it? That's a question that goes out to everybody. Yeah. Okay, so where do we want to go with this conversation? Do we want to talk about the universal Boris income? Do we want to talk about the digital virus? Going viral meant something very different just a few weeks ago. Do we want to talk about making connections? What about something completely different? It's kind of up to you. This is your show, so where do you want to take this conversation? Anybody? Margot?
Yeah, I think there was a conversation in the side chat about face. I definitely have noticed that people on Zoom meetings, they are a bit more ready to phase out their faces because they just can't be bothered. They may be doing something else.
Right.
I went to the toilet today whilst the workshop was going on and took my computer with me. I had to do it, but it was fine because I just turned off my screen and I turned off my sound. So it didn't really matter.
Turned off the screen properly.
No, I've got a sticker. I actually have a piece of sticker to go over it. So
okay, do you want to demonstrate that now?
Yeah, look.
There we go. Gone.
So I'm not like completely gone because you can see the shades, but I'm actually, you know, you can't actually see.
So it's like a frosted bathroom window in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, very frosted and dirty. But there certainly are people who maybe are not, you know, they're still kind of enjoying the first kind of wave of Zoom.
Yeah.
And it's so funny how we just naturally start creating pictures or kind of, you know, just doing interesting faces and stuff like that. I find that I just cannot focus on conversation if my face is on the screen. I find it quite hard because forever we just keep on, you know, this is like being legitimately, you know, an actor or actress in your own film. Like the whole TikTok thing is about people just like acting, like real life is like a movie set. I find that completely unbearable.
Well, it's nice to see you. I prefer it without the sticker, to be honest.
Thank you.
So, I
maybe
mean,
it's an Andy Warhol dream.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of philosophy on studying, you know, movement as dance and whatnot, everyday movements and whatnot. It's kind of, it all makes sense to me if it wasn't so scary or wasn't so end of the apocalyptic, but it's quite contemporary.
Because I mean, Andy Warhol was quite kind of phobic about germs anyway, wasn't it? So is this was this the future that he was predicting? This kind of like
yeah, I reckon. With the rise of all of our media, for sure, for a long time.
Okay, so are we going to go any further with that? And what does that Andy Warhol utopia stroke dystopia look like? Craig, Jess?
I think it's interesting that, you know, we've been knowing that a big flu or something like this would come along at some point, that people haven't been more prepared for it. And when I say people, I mean like governments and countries. Like, you know, we have plans for all sorts of stuff. I don't know why we haven't had a plan for something like this to happen. You know, South Korea had a very good plan and they've implemented it well. I don't know why we haven't.
Brexit.
Is that why?
There we go. Oh, Carol's got his hand up, so maybe he's got the answers.
Carol, talk to us, Carol.
Regarding the plan and having the plan, there was some kind of, well, I don't know if it's true or not, but if you Google up event 201, it looks like in October there was a bit of planning and exercise happened about how to prepare for the global pandemic. So I guess there were some plans tried to put in place. It's worth having a look because they kind of prepare the kind of little simulation of how would the global pandemic work out.
Was it accurate?
I think on the 18th of October. Last year. So about 3 or 4 months before the actual first information about coronavirus, and it's interesting to see. And maybe I didn't watch the whole conference, but the whole conference is available on YouTube. And maybe it can give us a little bit more information about what's going to happen next.
Sorry, what was it called?
Event 201.
Maybe you could just could you send us a link on the chat just so that other people can have a look at that?
Yeah, I'll do that.
I'm really sorry. I'm going to have to go. Sorry.
All right. Give us a final thought before you go.
Oh, well,
Victoria, thanks for coming and getting involved.
That's all right. No. Final thought. God. just talk more, really. Everyone should, which we're all doing, talk on whichever medium we can talk through, I suppose. Keep connected. I
mean, one of our questions that sort of like is kind of implied by your story about your friend is like how, because the Zoom thing is very narrow because not everyone can actually get onto Zoom.
No, exactly.
So how do we, I mean, one of the things we were going to do, I haven't quite kind of got the technology together yet, but we're working on it, is we're actually we've got this big mixer. So over here, I'm just showing you on the other screen. So we can actually bring in other platforms.
Okay.
Just haven't quite got it on the road yet and worked out how to combine the video. But, you know, even then it's still using different kinds of technology rather than, you
just
know,
one, that would be good,
you know, but there still is an issue. How do we bring in a wider group of people here? And I think it is an important question.
Yeah.
Anyway, food for thought.
Okay, no, I better go. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'll see you again soon.
Nice to see you. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for getting involved.
Thanks, Joe, for inviting me.
We'll probably do this again in a couple of weeks' time.
Fantastic. All right, thanks.
All right, see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Right, we've got Patrick down here. Do you want to try this again? Oh, say hello, Patrick.
No, I think you can hear me better now.
Yes! Yes! Woo! Any thoughts? I mean, you've been kind of forced to listen for a long time. Any responses to any of the things that we talked about?
I was about to enter a silent order.
What was that?
I was going into a silent order. I was talking to the abbot, and I asked him how soon could he let me in.
Right.
He said,
Oh yeah, and now you're back in.
Cool. And we got another new face as well down the bottom here. Say hello, Tim.
Hello, Mikey. You all right?
Yeah, good. At the moment, we're just, I guess, what we're talking about, there's a few different things on the table. We're talking about, in a way, it's all been about the positive things. It started off talking about what new skills have we learned through this experience. Then we talked about, will the government learn new skills by being able to have more politics online? Then we talked about the question about, weirdly, that kind of segued into the question about participation and talking about serious things like death. Then we talked about Earth Day and whether we'd have more of a global consciousness. And then we were talking about, I suppose, some of the kind of positive aspects, like this idea maybe we'll go more socialist, and we talked about, just like the Boris bikes were actually invented by Ken, we would have the universal Boris income, which is like Boris's version of the universal basic income. And that's what kind of where we were. There's lots of other subjects we're talking about, being connected, and how this new way of being connected has actually got some advantages, because you have got more of a sense of urgency. You've got more of a sense of really properly connecting with people. And that's where we are really, I think, at this point. What were we talking about just now? I've kind of forgotten now. Margot, help me out. What were we talking about just now?
No, we were talking about why haven't the governments prepared for this pandemic, even though information was known.
Yeah.
I think, Carol, you've shared a link as well, haven't you? But we were also talking about people loving the Zoom or not loving the Zoom. We were talking about
who's got access to the Zoom as well, because not everyone's got access. We've got another new face. We got Kentaro. Just say hello, Kentaro. I know you've only just joined, and I've just literally about 3 seconds ago done a summary of the whole conversation. So just for the sake of all the other people in the flow, I'm not going to do that summary again, but I will do one probably in about 5 or 10 minutes time. But just say hello for now. Let me unmute you.
I've been listening.
Oh, you have been listening. Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Oh, good stuff. Okay. Have you got a point at this point, or are you just going to sit and listen for a bit longer?
Yeah, I'll be here for a little bit.
Okay, good stuff. Nice to have you here.
Yeah.
So where do we want to go with this conversation? Any thoughts, any suggestions?
I was thinking the other night, I was listening to the dreaded LBC radio station.
Oh, yeah.
Because sometimes I find the people who are actually manning these programs, as in the receptionists, I think they know more about the people who are actually at the helm of the issues that are going on, because I've had to give up on it, because I said my sanity is worth a little bit more than somebody who picks the phone and says, wait a minute, I have something else to do, bring you back, and you're 3 days later and you're saying to yourself, he still hasn't rang me back. So outside of that, I was just listening with great intent the other evening, and they were discussing, and they were saying that China should have, because they were aware at the time of what was happening. And it wasn't as though this just suddenly somebody woke up in China and it happened to be just then and there, and that it happened to be here in England. It didn't just happen in the flash of a light. It happened over a period of time, like a period of time had passed.
Yeah.
And people were in trouble. People were sick. People were having complications.
So why didn't we take that seriously, I guess, is the question.
Yeah, and I was about to, I think if there wasn't a roof over the room I'm in, I would have been exhumed, because I said to myself, this is just total nonsense. You're talking about something as devastating as having every human being that has, outside of a health related employment, or outside of a very primary care employment, their work is dried up. In their businesses, their shops, their professional people gone, never possibly come back in some time, but it's not going to come easy at any point for these people, because they've been strapped. They've invested their lives in what they're working in, and they've had to sacrifice.
Yeah.
And suddenly, Pandora's box explodes into their face. And they have no futures. They have nothing. And
I mean, well, let me put that out to everyone else. Do we have people's futures been destroyed by this? And also the question about, we saw this unfolding in China, and it all seemed to be going on a long, long way away with not really much consequences for us. No, I don't think, I mean, my response to it was just ordering some new microphone windshields so that I had like less. That was my thinking. I didn't realize that Talkaoke would be completely closed down and would be forced to go online. So, I mean, there's two questions there. There's one about seeing this from a distance and were we taking it seriously enough? And then the other question, I suppose, about what about people's livelihoods? What about people's hopes and dreams? Have they been destroyed? Are they just going to be remodeled? Any thoughts about this? Either of those points? Margot.
I just think that in the world where, you know, at least in the Western world, the privileged world, there's so much emphasis on individualism. What this pandemic is showing is that human lives are just, you know, quite kind of fragile. And it's not until now that we really think, I mean, I don't know, maybe people think about death a lot. And I think that's what the lady from the Deaf Cafe was trying to maybe address with her work. But I think everything is just has been so geared towards, you know, making more and being really alive and really young and vibrant and all that kind of stuff. We haven't really had time to think about our own mortality and that kind of stuff. And I think now we're thinking about how fragile human life is, but also how disposable it is. We are absolutely unimportant, really.
Okay, so there's a kind of double edge to it. There's like, we're fragile, we're disposable, and are we really, you know, I guess it's easier to have that sense of importance when you're rushing around to meetings, doing this and that. We've got a few hands raised up. David, actually, you had your hand up first, even though you've not got your head around the virtual hand. Then I'm going to come to Joe and then Carol. So, David. Oh, let me unmute you. Hang on. Oh, yep, go on.
Okay. I will say that basically is the pursuit of times that in my local cemetery, the average they got some very old tomb, and the average age of the people who died was like 25 years old.
Right.
So basically, before the beginning of the century, before the beginning of the 21st century, basically, life expectancy wasn't that long. So basically, we've been going a big, long way to improve life. And make it longer and longer. And basically, somehow, the virus might just remind us that we are not very, it's not done to us. There is some external.
Okay, so in a way, we've kind of made so much progress, we've taken it for granted, and now we have to just kind of sit back a little bit and realize that we're not that great as we thought we were. Let me just go to Carol. Carol?
Yeah. Well, just kind of elaborating on what Margot says about what we kind of became aware of is, one thing is that we're all connected actually, and when we can rely on others, although maybe we will never see anyone all day, but we still rely on so many other people around us. And if they have to stay home and not do their job, and we are staying home not doing our job, then very quickly we can go from first world say luxury and privilege to third world lack of products, lack of services, lack of lack of.
We are the one who will miss it the most because we know about it.
What was that?
Yeah.
So let's just get Carol's point. What was your point? Sorry, I just missed that. Sorry, David. Go on. The third world.
We are the one who's going to miss it the most because we know about it. If you grew up in a third world country, you don't know what the commercial capitalism is. You just live by the day.
Yeah.
You enjoy. Maybe the life is more meaningful because there is not all those extra plus.
So we're getting a different experience really now. So, I mean, is that necessarily a bad thing? I think is David's point that we're changing our circumstances.
Yeah, I'm not trying to say it's good or bad. I'm just saying that we are what we kind of made aware of is we're only a very thin line, or one kind of maybe a month away or a few days away from being like a third world country if things are going bad. Like, we're not any more privileged than anyone else, because if things collapses, we just go back to the bottom straight away. So that's something that we were reminded of it. But also the fragility of life. Yes, that's true as well. But yeah, I agree. I just wanted to.
Yeah. Okay. So we're not as high up the ladder as we think we are. We're only, let's say, I'm going to quote you, Carol, a month away from being a third world society. Joe, what's your point?
Hi. Yeah, something around similar kind of direction. Just thinking around, going back to Patrick's comments about how disruptive this is going to be. I mean, I think it's fair to say it's going to be disruptive for 2 years, whether we like it or not. And then within that, there's like different gradations. I also think I think the inequality point and privilege point is really important, both nationally and internationally. And it's for me, there's something around, some of us can buy some security for a while, so the impact is softened. And also that's normal with any kind of depression or recession or thing. But the other thing that we can also buy is reduction of risk. Depending, so I'm 52, so I feel a bit more in the risk category, but not as much as a 70-year-old might. Just statistically, this condition is really quite, the stats really stack up once you get into the older age groups. But I'm conscious if you're a 63-year-old or a 58-year-old with really no secure income, you can't buy very much. You can't buy very much safety. I have some security that might be okay. So there's all those. So there's quite a lot in there, but the inequality.
Yeah, so it's not just about different countries, but different people within. Like those more comfortable people are a bit further away from danger and shit getting real than, whatever country they're in a way. I suppose also in the third world countries, there are richer people probably too that have got more security there. Let's bring in some of the people that have not said too much yet, like Tim and Kentaro. Geraldine, you've not said that much.
I would just like to bring in a comment from off the main grid line, which is the text message from my friend Tom, who's asking, is it always this bleak? And I'm trying to explain.
Well, I mean, if Tom's
it's only as bleak as people, as you read it. It's up to participants to, We talk about what.
I'm going to put out a direct message, Tom. Come online and unbleak this. Unbleak this. Give us something.
Unbleak this chat.
Yeah, unbleak my heart. Yeah. Come on.
Geraldine's got.
I completely welcome this lockdown, and not to harm anyone. I completely welcome it. I want to get rid of the bullshit. I'm not happy with society as it was before and was going. So I'm happy if we lose 90% of the businesses that exist, because I think 90% of them are bullshit businesses.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they pay their rent.
Well, our business is really a bullshit business, but in a different sort of way. Well, just getting people talking bullshit most of the time.
That's all right.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, you walk through. I was in King's Cross the other day, and I was like texting my dad and taking a photo of all the shops around King's Cross, and you're like, what on earth are they all here for?
Yeah.
Like, this is nuts.
So we could do with a bit of a jolt, a bit of a change around, and
I hope so.
Okay.
But so that was like for the first 2 weeks of this lockdown, I was in imagination fantasy land of like, great, the world's like going to stop, supermarkets are going to die, you know, we're all gonna, I'll start growing onions, you know. Yeah, but I think it's going to be a flick of the switch and we'll go back to how it ever was.
So you think it'll just be right back to normal, straight back to normal?
So.
Yeah, okay.
I don't want it, and I think so.
Okay, all right. Well, just while we've got a little pause in conversation now, I just want to say hello to Simon. Just say hello to us, but you don't have to come up with anything clever at this point.
Clever to say. Thank you. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, how you doing? Thanks for joining us. Obviously, you know Talkaoke, so if you've got something to say, just obviously chime up. You can also use the virtual raised hand. If you know how that works, go to participant. You know, familiar. So obviously join in as and when you want. At the moment we're sort of talking about, is it a bleak scenario? Oh, Geraldine says we're just going to switch back to what it was before as soon as we can. Are we going to do that? Are we going to come out with any positives? Is this conversation way too bleak? That's what Tom says online. I'll come to you in a second, Margot, but Jess and Craig had their hands raised.
I was just going to say, I think there is going to be some interesting businesses that develop from this lockdown and corona.
Yeah.
I know me and Jess have found some quite interesting companies that we've been ordering stuff off to keep ourselves entertained. And also like businesses that have changed it. You know, we've been ordering from a wholesaler because obviously there's not a lot of restaurants that they could be serving now, so they've just opened up their doors to be delivering to home users. And I think, you know, there is innovation that is happening.
Okay, so there's a bit of an innovation going on. So is it going to be back to normal? Is this conversation too bleak? Tom, have we heard anything from Tom about how to make it less bleak online? Obviously invited to come and join. I also want to just say to those people, is that like the bleak dystopian thing you've got going on there, Rick? Yeah, this is kind of bleak. Is this the landscape that we're going to be rubbing our eyes and walking into when this is all over? Is this what Poplar is, or Norwood for that matter, is going to look like when this is all over?
Brexit, that's what
Simon, you got a point down the bottom here. Oops, hang on. Yeah. Go on, Simon.
Yeah, what I was going to say is like that bleak dystopia that you got behind you. Like today's Earth Day, isn't it? And so realistically, like we're doing a lot on the coronavirus and how serious it is. And obviously, it is. It's going to have massive, far-reaching ramifications for a lot of us, but not nearly as much as climate change and all that has. And I'm not even I don't know an awful lot about the whole climate change debate. I know enough. My sister works for the UN in climate change, and she was saying like, it's an uncomfortable truth that at the moment they don't want to be insensitive to people talking about, you know, more depressive, fucked up stuff. But ultimately, this is a drop in the ocean. The virus thing is a drop in the ocean compared to the damage that's being done every day to the planet. And so, yeah, I hope that's nice and positive for Tom or whoever it was. But once this is over, we've got a lot more to deal with.
Okay, so
people an insight into how seriously they should be taken.
I mean, is it just a question of perspective? Because you can look at that in a bleak way, or look at it in a positive way, I suppose. Is Tom's view of it? Is it about the perspective? Could we look at this in a positive? Is it just about looking at things in a happy way rather than a sad way, optimistic way rather than a negative way? Let me bring in Tim on this because, like, you've not said anything at all yet, Tim. Maybe you haven't got anything to say, and that's your right. of course, as you know, on Talkaoke. But I just want to give you a little bit of encouragement. Are you negative, positive about this? Oops, hang on.
So yeah, well, no. Funny enough, when you showed that image before, I thought all I thought was that's space, like openness. And,
right. Okay. So you quite like the bleakness of it in a way.
Well, I like the openness compared to being inside for 4 weeks or whatever it's been. So yeah,
okay. So you'll take that landscape over.
If I walk out to that in a month's time, I wouldn't be bothered.
Yeah, at least it'll be open space. Okay. All right. How's that, Tom? For a bit more of an optimistic thing going on there. Okay. So is it just a question of perspective? Could we be more positive about that? Geraldine's definitely positive. Kantara, have you got a view on any of this? Oops, hang on.
Hey.
Yeah.
You know that I'm always have a perspective from the Neanderthals, right?
Yeah. Which is what?
Which is that they went extinct before us.
Yeah.
So in a bigger scheme of things, I'm sure these kind of things been happening all the time. But on a personal level, I mean, obviously, I'm doing a lot of pottery, and it doesn't change that much. But in a very sort of next 20 to 50 years kind of time span, I think I've been thinking about whether this is going to change the world completely or not. I don't think it would change completely. I think it would still hold back. We will probably still have to hold back to some of the values that we think is worth holding on to. I mean, I don't know if it's good or bad. It's just the way that we...
Will our sense of what's an important value change, or do you don't think it will?
No, I think on a personal level, I think it does. But, for example, does money go away? Does the need for energy go away? I don't think these things will go away.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's like some kind of underlying kind of structure that cannot change, just the way we are human.
Okay, so the power structure will stay the same. Joe, you had a point, and you've written something in the chat as well. You're enjoying being a bit more negative. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, I think language is quite important. I think I think to call a conversation bleak is I find that a bit, in a weird way, kind of controlling. In that I think it's really important that we have space to grind our concerns. I don't think that's the same thing as being negative or being bleak. I think that's because I think if you don't name where you're really at, then you can't really build upwards. And I think I saw this thing online about toxic positivity, where there's an awful lot of like forcing people to be positive when they're not. So I am a pretty positive guy, and I'm involved in quite a lot of positive community stuff. But I think there is something about taking the punch and taking the hit and understanding where the hit us, and then
taking it on the chin. Yeah.
So it's constructive, I suppose, rather than
constructive negativity. Let's call it.
What? Sorry, what did you call
constructive negativity. I'm gonna turn myself up a bit then, if people can.
I can hear you very loudly.
Okay, I'm very loud. Okay. Am I too loud?
And maybe just
I'll turn myself down a tad. There we go. It's no problem. Just tell me. Margot, what's your point? I'll come to you in a second, Carol.
I really like what you said, Joe, about toxic positivity, because that's exactly, I think I was kind of trying to say that earlier in a kind of really flimsy way, but we are just so used to seeing things positive and optimistic. But, when we left in a lockdown, so it's like, oh my God, I'm so bored. It's like, oh my God, get me out of here. But we just need to go a little bit deeper, and sometimes, and it's fine to have those conversations and have them in a public forum. I think people used to do it more often. So yeah, definitely up for that. I had another point, but I forgot what it was. Okay,
well, we can come back to you. I will say we're kind of coming towards the end of this. So in the next 10 minutes, we are going to start to solicit final thoughts and say goodbye to everyone. But we've got time for a few more just generic thoughts. So Carol, come in. And David, I see you've got your hand up as well.
Generic thoughts.
Yeah, come up with your generic thoughts. What are they?
So yeah, we talked about we just touched on values. I think thanks to this unfortunate situation, but I think that real values will resurface now if people were following the wrong kind of paths. This situation may help them see what's actually valuable, and these real values will resurface again in our lives.
What are the real values?
yeah, so that's about the values comment. And then second comment about the staying with ourselves is like quite a lot of people are not able to physically be with themselves. They're always trying to distract themselves from their thoughts and their whatever is in their minds. And I think also self-isolation is a little bit, well, it's a chance for people to reconnect with themselves a little bit, maybe, you know, think about what's happening in their heads, not constantly distracting themselves. Although it's still easy to distract themselves.
I just want to come back to you, Carol, on your first point. What do you think the real values are that we're going to come back to?
Well, it's only been in a month for me in isolation. The values are slowly resurfacing, but I think definitely relationships with people and connections with other human beings is something that I didn't really pay attention to before. I kind of thought, well, I'm being alone is cool, is fine. I don't need anyone. But actually, the moments of reconnecting and building relationships is what, at least at the moment, what I'm finding a value that's resurfacing in my life as a main one. So that's that. And I wanted to do a final comment because I have to run.
Okay.
So my final comment is also about the bleakness and depressing and being positive or negative. Is actually, there's, as Joe said, we don't need to we don't need to judge it. Like, it's fine to be negative when we feel negative, and it's fine to be positive when we're positive. It's good to keep try and lean on the positive side when we can and when we have a chance, obviously. Because obviously we can see good and bad in any situation, because situations are not really positive or negative. It's just
our perspective.
It's happening. We then give a meaning to this situation. But when we want to be negative, we should be, and we have to embrace.
Okay.
Embrace
the negativity.
Thank you very much for having
Thank
me.
you. It's lovely to meet you, and thanks for getting involved.
Thanks,
See you later.
So good to see you.
See you too, Michael.
As I said, 2 weeks' time is the next Norwood. There are other Talkaoke sessions even tomorrow. If you can't get enough of this, join us tomorrow at 5 o'clock.
I'll be following the website.
Fantastic.
I'll join soon.
Yeah.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Carol. See you later.
Bye-bye. Let me come to Will. You've had your hand up for a long time.
Okay, no, he was just going back to the values thing. I think I think on a little bit of a lowbrow level, my values have changed, because I found myself picking an outfit up to go to Tesco the other day. It was like the highlight of the day. What you're going to wear to go out the house?
Right.
So I think I'm guessing by that reaction, I'm not alone. So I think people's values on different levels are starting to shift just a little bit. I'm going to have to start thinking about what to wear to a Zoom meeting next. I think.
What hat to wear?
What hat to? I know. I haven't really made much of an effort today.
All right. Let me come to Jess and Craig. What was your point?
I was just also going to say on values, like, it is a nice time to kind of get in touch with yourself and kind of invest time in your own interests and not have to focus on like other aspects of life, if that's like your career or job or like. So it's nice to, you know, spend time doing the things that you want to do, even if it's just in the house.
Okay, so it's the values readjustment is a real thing, and it's a good thing. Let's just get some. David, you got a point, but I think we're going to have to start to go for final thoughts now. So maybe make your point, David, but also sort of merge it in with a final thought. Oh, hang on, let me unmute you. Hang on, yep, go on.
Okay, I like to speak about the notion of privilege and the fact of being able to drive your own car or eat a lot of meat. How much charity work you will have to do to be able to access those privilege? That's my question, and I guess.
Okay, do you think we're more aware of privilege now that all this has gone down?
Yes, you will basically know about it. We are nice and behind our webcam. We don't feel that much of the roughness, but the roughness will definitely increase.
Okay, so we still need to go a bit further to really.
Sorry to be so bleak.
Yeah, really. Don't apologise to me. Apologise to Tom, because he's the one.
And he's at work. Speaking of bleak.
All right. Okay, he's at work. Okay. Patrick, have you got a final thought?
Yes. I am supposed to yesterday go into the local hospital here in Croydon, in Purley, because I'm one of the people who has been in isolation since the 4th of February.
Right.
I have actually not gone outside my door since 4th of February.
Wow.
Apart from compulsory visits to my hospital associated doctor, who is treating me for 2 health conditions, which are physical health conditions. I suffer as a result of having these health conditions because I've had to give up employment. And it was the roughest experience of my life. I'm a professional person. I trained in college. I lived a different life to the life I lived after college because I went back to education. I was in a different role. I was in a different job altogether. I worked with people all my life, but I never actually experienced what I experienced when I came to the city of London. My whole persona went out the door.
Right.
The reason being, I had to live at that time. I don't now. I live in my own private flat, not too far from where your studio is. I came through hell on earth, and I actually know myself. I feel it in myself that had I not had that self-experience, I would know nothing. I didn't. I think most people don't unless they actually go through living in backpacker hostels. That probably rings alarm bells when I said backpacker hostels, because there's something else. They were here in the city. And I said to myself, I had to actually get tunnel vision. I said, sweet Jesus, get me through this. One of my legs is on top of my wallet and passport, and the other is on top of the 15-year-old laptop. And the other one was around myself. I was scared stiff. I was never scared like that before.
Yeah.
And I said, these would call themselves good living human beings. I'm scared. I dreaded the nighttime.
Yeah.
In a room, like would say I had to pay £50 a night for the room. £50 for a bed, a single bed. I didn't have anything else. I experienced the same thing with the landlords that ran these places. I'm not giving identities because they know who they are. And I said to myself, I have to go through to finally come through, if you understand what I'm saying. I had to go through the experience to know what life was about.
And what about now? Do you feel like that's equipped you for this situation now?
Very much so.
Yeah.
But at the same time, don't get me wrong, I'm not like some people have just expressed like this is something that's happening and blasey. No, I don't, because because of my work is a counselor. That's what I trained to be, a therapist. I don't know what the other people have trained to be. I'm just divulging myself. But having had the lived experience of working with people and not knowing people, and then suddenly the Pandora box exploded.
Yeah.
I was for the first time out of my comfort zone.
Right.
I didn't know who was there beside me, out there in front of any place.
Right.
I went into the room. I was lucky to come out of the room alive.
Yeah. So it's very much.
It's very much. Wallet left me on my second day, and then I became homeless.
It's very much out of the comfort zone experience, and you know, in a way, I mean, it goes back to the point that David was making, that we are so much in our comfort zones, even when we're at home behind the webcam. and that, I guess, limits our insight as to what we know, what we know about life, and how we see it just through some kind of mediated channel. And maybe this experience for the rest of us as well will give us a little bit more of a sense, of that wider thing going on, I suppose, is fair to say. Let's get some other final thoughts. Anyone else got a final thought? Tim? Oops, sorry.
Am I there? Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. No, I was just going to say when Carol was talking about the thin line between everything collapsing, and I don't think I felt that in terms of the functioning of how how we function and get food and all that stuff. That seemed like a blip at the beginning, and then everything's just kind of, people just settled into a different routine around that stuff, and probably spend less money on food, but in a better way and all that kind of stuff. But I think for me, it's more the thin line between the kind of connections that we have with other people, and how quickly we've been reduced to one form of communication with pretty much everyone, which has been part of that's been amazing, because actually I think a lot of people have ended up with more contact with people that they
we were talking about that earlier, actually.
But then the other side of it is the realization that that very thin line of contact, that should someone die is feels that much more delicate. I suppose that's what I want to say. But I'm really sorry, I'm super late for something and I have to run. But
okay, well, that's a good final thought for sure. And this question about delicacy, really nice to see you. Thanks for that contribution. It's a delicate, fragile world that we live in. We just think we're so insulated. Any other final thoughts, Jess and Craig?
Yeah, mine's sort of related to that really, and the fact that I think that one thing that we were doing before this was taking so much for granted. Whether it was just how easy it was to pop to the shops if we wanted something, or something as more important as the relationships that we had. So I'm hoping that is one of the silver linings that come out of this. That people just stop taking things, whether they're the tiniest of things, the biggest of things, for granted, and just realise how quickly they can change, and just how one little thing changing it can just have a domino effect as well.
I mean, I think that's been really interesting, and it comes back to Patrick's point about viewing it from China and seeing this kind of tsunami coming across the world, but the reality is completely different when it's upon you than when you see it happening to a different country or different people. Okay, any other final thoughts? We're getting some really good ones. Final thoughts from people? Joe, final thought?
Just really quick one, a bit like Jessica's, just I think it'll be interesting if we can hang on to that preciousness of making contact with people. But, when we bump into, like I mentioned earlier, about bumping into people in the street and that being much more precious than it was before. So if there's something we could hang on to there, that'd be really interesting. I
mean, that sense of delicacy is also a sense of the preciousness of what we've got and how fragile those things are. There's a certain sort of beauty, I suppose, in that fragility as well, we could see. Any other final thoughts? Margot, Will? Hang on, let me unmute you. Hang on, Go on, Margot.
I've unmuted myself. I'm just speaking about things, what's going to happen after this is over, if it's over, if it's over, because I think effects of that are going to be with us for a long time. But I wonder to what extent we're going to go back to pop culture and interacting with people. Are we actually going to take a bit more time to consider what's being said, or are we just going to be the usual disappointing human beings and just not learn the lesson at all? And just quickly as a comparison, my artist friends tend to say, we're just going to learn so much from it, we're just going to change everything, it's going to be great. And then my accountant friend says, no, it's going to be exactly the same way. So people with different minds, maybe they just...
Once again, it's a question of perspective, are we going to be disappointing human beings, or the opposite of whatever the opposite of that is? Any other final thoughts? There was a thing, I think, Will, you had your hand up, didn't you? Hang on, you're not, hang on.
There we go.
Oh, no.
There we go. I've just been looking back through all the comments from the conversation we've had this afternoon. It's really interesting. The one for me that was sticking out was this. I think it was Rohan that raised the point about Boris rebranding the bikes and taking credit, but at least it's happening. So I'm really interested to see A, what changes afterwards, and B, whether or not people call the bullshit a little bit and say, actually, that's not your idea. You know, that's been said before, and, you know, see what does happen and how the public reacts. It's going to be interesting.
Okay, so we don't really know in a way. We'll just have to wait and see. Emmett, final thought?
Yeah, I was just thinking about the bikes. When they were originally launched, they were started by Ken when he was Mayor of London, but it took a while for them to come in. By the time they came in, they were called Boris Bikes.
Yeah, that's basically, we've been through
now
this.
they're Sadiq Cycle, sponsored by Santander. I don't know who the next mayor will be, but I hope it's got a word that works alliteratively with some words for a two-wheeled pedal thing. But the other thing is, earlier on we were talking about their deaf cafes. Now, I don't know if you've heard of the Bon Po religion. They say it goes going back 17,000 years. I've done a bit with the Young Drung Bon. And one of the major things that they repeat is we should have compassion for those who believe and act as though they are immortal. So I think that's the major purpose of the death cafes, is to have compassion for those who think and act as though they are immortal.
Right, okay, that's a good final thought. Any other final thoughts? Or are we going to add something to that, Emmett? Because I think you were on a roll with the...
No, definitely. Yeah. Well, I mean, it just at the moment with just seeing the people, conspiracy theorists, because it's so, personally, I've got a lot of compassion for conspiracy theorists, because there's so much of what we're told that if you question it, you're told you're a conspiracy theorist, and actually 90% of what we're told is bollocks. We can see what happened to the Labour Party, those that anti-Semitism Labour Party, and the only people being anti-Semitic were the people controlled by Mark Regev in the Israeli embassy. Mark Regev, the person responsible for the reintroduction of anti-Semitic fascist regimes to Europe, when he converted Viktor Orban to hatred of George Soros and anti-Semitic conspiracy folks there. He's the guy who appointed the people in the Board of Deputies, the guy who created the Jewish Leadership Council, the guy who basically got the Jewish labor movement back and things. He's the person responsible for all of this stuff. And we just realized that it was all lies. The only people being anti-Semitic were the people he was telling what to do in the Labour Party headquarters. And so obviously conspiracy theorists got a lot of time for them, but a lot of them don't really have their brains on their shoulders. And there's a lot of things about Bill Gates, you know.
This sounds like a whole, Emmett, this sounds like a whole new thread for Talkaoke.
And he wants to put a tracker in everyone's bloodstream. This is just complete nonsense. There's no way you can put a tracker in your bloodstream. When they put a thing in your pet, a bit like an oyster, so it can find out who it belongs to, RFID, they have to insert it under the skin. You can't put it in the bloodstream. That's just nonsense. Yeah. How would RFID work when it was going around the bloodstream? It's just nonsense. And the thing is, I've got compassion for the conspiracy theorists, but they've got to learn how to use a little bit of reason.
Okay, so
Emmett, what was the religion you referenced at the beginning?
Maybe you could write it in the chat.
Yeah, could you write it in the chat? What was the religion you mentioned?
We'll get it from the chat. I mean, we're closing this down now. Let's just go to those who haven't given a final thought yet. Simon, Geraldine, you've not given a final thought.
Are you there?
One. You don't have to have one.
Yeah, no, I'm blank. There you go. I'll take that option. No thought.
And have you heard anything that other people have said that's been...
no. Have I listened to anyone?
Not really, no. Okay. Simon, final thought? Let me unmute you. I don't know what's going on. You're not... Oh, yeah, go again.
No, I just really enjoyed this experience, to be fair. Like, a lot of people were talking about how it's made them cherish their social contacts, but I think I was a lot more social before the lockdown, and post-lockdown I've had the opportunity to call ample people. I've got a big friendship circle, but I haven't really been in contact with nearly enough people. And I find the video calling thing a little bit uncomfortable sometimes. So this has been a really good forum to just hear some fascinating and intelligent, articulate points made with a variety of different people with different opinions from different walks of life all together in one place. It's just really beautiful to be involved in it, really. So thank you very much.
Okay, we'll save that for the PR. I think,
give me that £20.
Yeah. Checks in the post. All right, so I think that's got to be it because we're already running late. We're 10 minutes over. Thanks everybody for taking part. Let me just put a big thanks out to Rick that's been visualizing behind me all of the things, doing a great job. And we'll put all of that stuff online. We'll put it on the Facebook feed. Thanks to all your people on Facebook. Next time, come and talk to us, speak to us, or just at least comment, send your texts in. It's great to have you all. It's great to be connected to you all. And amazing to hear people's views. And for me, personally, I just want to say that it gives me a certain sense of positivity that you're all out there thinking and being creative and coming up with these new ways to see the world. So thanks everybody.
Brilliant.
And if you can just tweet us, or if you can say something on Facebook of my experience, it'd be really awesome. I've been experiencing Twitter in a new kind of way, trying to shift some of the conversations onto the Twitter platform. My fingers are really hurting now. But if you're a Twitter person, do comment and let people know about them.
Okay,
yeah.
So
I'm gonna have massive
I'll use that to say goodbye.
Brilliant.
Thank you, everybody. See you soon. See you next week. And if we have got a gig tomorrow at 5 o'clock, which is more of a pub vibe, so do come down to that. Nice to see you all. Hopefully, see you again soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.